Hello and welcome back to Core Finance in association with the NEX Exchange. It gives me great pleasure to introduce onto the show Patrick Birley, who is the Chief Executive of NEX Exchange.
Indeed.
The big man himself. So thank you so much for joining us here on Core Finance. Well, it's been an exciting year for NEX Exchange. So
has, yeah.
Probably the best thing to do is just explain to our viewers and potential investors or potential companies that could be looking at the NEX Exchange what 2017 has had for you, and maybe let's look forward to 2018.
Okay, yeah, good place to start. I mean, 2017. Let's be honest, it's been a tough year in the equities arena. But for us, it's been, I think, a very solid year. I mean, number one, it's the year that we became NEX. So that for us was a big event. It allowed us to really push ourselves, create a brand which I think people started to resonate with people. We've done a lot of marketing, got our name out there, and people are talking about us. And that's, again, I think that's a great starting point for us. Couple of things to highlight and successes that we've had. It hasn't been as big a year for new equity as we expected, but I think positively we've had more new joiners than we've had leavers, which in the small cap space is a pretty positive thing. We've had a couple of really interesting secondary raises. We've had a number of our existing companies have raised money successfully in the secondary market, which I'm really pleased about. And I know we'll probably talk about Chapel Down, but they just last week announced that they'd raised £18.5 million on a secondary issue. So really pleasing to see that people are able to raise money at the moment if they're in the investor sweet spot. And then probably one other highlight that I'd throw in is that we've started to really see for interesting companies, a lot more trade in the secondary market as well. And I highlight Coinsilium, one of our companies who specialise in the blockchain space, who have gone from, their share price this year already has gone up fivefold at least, and they have seen, they've really attracted some pretty impressive numbers in terms of retail investors. And certainly for us, it's always been a little bit of an issue that some of the retail brokers haven't taken us as seriously as they've taken the competition. But with successful companies, suddenly we're getting inquiries from retail brokers. So as we look forward to 2018, I'd love to see more companies following on the successes that we've seen, more secondary raises, but also I think greater trading activity, across the community. A lot of our companies are very satisfied that they don't have a hugely active secondary market because that's not critical to them. But for those companies that attract investor interest, we really want to make sure that the retail stockbrokers are servicing those companies. We have a market-making mechanism, supported by Winterfloods and Shorecap and Peel Hunt, which means that the pricing is very attractive relative to the smaller companies on AIM as well. So we feel we're doing all of the right things, drawing the community together, and I'm really sort of bullish about 2018 and macro environment permitting. I think that NEX Exchange are very well positioned for the coming year.
And what sets NEX Exchange apart from the other exchanges, and why is it important that NEX Exchange exists for UK companies and global companies, more importantly?
Sure. Well, maybe answering those in reverse order. I mean, I think that it's important to have competition in this space. And we've for too long there's been essentially a single offering. And inevitably where there is a single offering, there isn't, people aren't really pushing the boundaries. It's got very expensive, it's very bureaucratic. People tell us that the regulatory approach is very sort of overbearing. Our whole attitude is about that we want to be part of the community. We care about issuers, we want them to be successful in raising money, we want them to have a long and successful journey with us. We care about investors, and I keep on saying investors. We're not particularly interested in punters. We want people who are going to really do their due diligence on our firms. If they think that they are interesting and they believe in the management, they will invest long term and stay with those companies. And we want to be part of that engine and down there working with our advisors, working with the lawyers, working with the others to ensure a successful outcome for each party. We don't see ourselves as being, we don't want to be overbearing. We really want to be part of the community that makes public equity an interesting asset, something that investors get excited about and hopefully get some good returns at, whilst acknowledging, we are dealing with smaller companies who are entrepreneurial, will make mistakes, and so making sure that there is an appropriate awareness of the risks that people are getting into as well.
And how has NEX enabled companies to actually achieve their goals since coming on to NEX? And you mentioned secondary capital raisings.
Sure.
Surely a lot of companies are looking at that path as well. And how has NEX helped them achieve that?
Well, what we're really trying to do is to make the process of coming onto the market for a company very, as straightforward as it can be, whilst being very mindful of our regulatory responsibilities and making sure that the companies are appropriate for a public market forum and appropriate for small investors to get involved. And we help them by, number one, working with them through that process of joining in the first place, so that it's not a completely awful experience. Then working with them, because often a criticism of public markets is that the whole administrative and regulatory thing is a terrible burden. It shouldn't be, and we want to make sure that companies understand what their responsibilities are, and that they are ensuring that they are informing regulators appropriately of what is going on, so we're not trying to catch them out. We're trying to work with them to get there to that end outcome. But again, and sorry, it's a long answer to a short question, but for different companies have different things that they want to achieve on the market. And for some of our longer term companies, people like Shepherd Neame, who've never raised money on the market, but have been, a lovely long term old English brewery with fantastic assets. For them it's very much a pricing mechanism that they're after. But then again, yes, let's use Chapel Down again as an example. Dynamic young company, growing very fast, setting up a brewing operation, buying more vineyards. They need access to cash, and so they're obviously always interested in raising profile, meeting investors and showing their story off. So there's not a one-size-fits-all for each company. It just depends on what they're trying to achieve and getting their message across. And we try and hold their hands through that process.
Superb. And just to round up, for 2018, what are your goals? What are your main aims?
Oh, my goodness. It's always a difficult one to predict. I mean, I think that I would like, this month, in the last month or so, we've had 4 or 5 new companies coming on. I'd like to see that sort of momentum carrying on throughout on an ongoing basis, so that we have a continuing. But number one, it's servicing those existing companies, growing our community, dealing with the political and the macro issues as they arise. I hate to say MiFID, but we've got to get over the MiFID 2, MiFID 3, MiFID 2 on the 3rd of January. So working with our community to grow the pot, make our offering attractive and exciting, hopefully getting good results for investors and allowing issuers to raise money successfully.
Well, on that note, it sounds like a very exciting 2018 ahead of you, Patrick. Thank you very much for joining us here on Core Finance in association with the NEX Exchange.
Thank you very much.